To steal a life, JFK. You don't paint your own car at home because it's easy. You paint your own car at home because it's hard. And it's hard. It's like, no joke, okay? You can't really appreciate what goes into something like this until you do it yourself. So I'm going to head off the comments right off the bat. There's going to be two groups of people commenting on this video. One group is going to say, just leave it the way it is. Patina, cover it with stucco, roll on some tractor implement paint, right? Leave it alone, it's fine just with it. Yeah, I know, look, see, look, I have cars like that, see? I have this one, right? I have a few cars like that, yeah. Patina up the wazoo. And I love it the way it is. I'm into the jagged, you know, rust and sheet metal, that's all nice. But I also want a car, a couple of cars in my life that are pretty, you know, that you can wax, that actually look good as they go down the road. Yeah, so that's where we get to this thing here. So we started out about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago. And I said, okay, so here's first golden rule of doing your own paint job. Whatever you think is going to take a day, it's going to take a week. If you think it's going to take a week, put a month aside. It's a never-ending, it's an onion of once you get this straight, then all of a sudden you see that that's not right. Once you get this flat, then you notice that that's not right. And you have to kind of like start all over again, work it over again. So here's the second group of commenters that are going to jump into this video. Oh, I could knock that car out in 45 minutes. I could drink a pint of paint and piss the color all over it. It'd be perfect. Go win shows with the thing. Yeah, I know. You're a champion. I get it. But this video isn't for you. This video is for guys who are like me, who are normally mechanics, and will paint a couple of cars during the course of our life. And these are the things that we're up against when we do this. You know, this is one of the few videos that, like, I'm really helpless. Like, this isn't something I've just done time and time again and I've mastered. No, I watch, you know how many YouTube tutorials I've watched since I started doing this thing? All I do now, when I'm not rubbing this car with sandpaper, I'm watching YouTube tutorials. And they're all good. But here, beware of this, all right? When you watch these tutorials, keep in mind, these guys are good at what they do. They do this every day. They paint cars, that's their thing, right? So they make it look unrealistically easy. I guess it's like that with every profession, right? But just keep that in mind. When guys say, oh yeah, you can do this professional paint job at home, and you just need, you know, basic materials. You can pick up a Dollar Tree. No, you don't. He can do that. You can't do that. I can't do that, right? We suffer, right? We suffer for our art. This is the middle of the second week of something that was supposed to take about a couple of days. I said, you know, we're not going to change the color on the car. We're just going to scuff it and shoot it. But scuffing it and shooting it. So let me explain. I painted this car about 6 years ago now. And it actually didn't come out too bad. But now that I'm going over it and I'm correcting some of the mistakes that I made the first time around, this is where I'm running into problems. The car looked good directly from the side. It looked good from, you know, it looked good from different angles, okay? Except like when you were following the thing at night, right, you could see there were waves and there were blotches and everything, and it drove me crazy. And I was like, you know, I'm going to repaint this car. I'm not going to stress it now. So here we are, and this is what I'm spending the bulk of my time on. It's all of these little imperfections that I missed or you know, like for instance, every mark that you see here. So this was all crunched, and we have the before and after. We'll show you the before picture. But every one of these other marks that you see was, you know, a wave. It was like a bit of an imperfection. And they all needed to be worked out and sanded. And so this is what's taking so much time. And you know, you think, well, yeah, you just get it smooth, just get it sanded. But no, now there's cleaning that's involved too. Every crease, every crevice, every little corner of the car has got dust in it now. So when you go to paint it, all of these things need to be cleaned out. The gutters on the trunk, under the hood, all of these areas need to be cleaned, because when you go to paint it, you know, the paint is going to stick to it. So there's, even after I'm done with my final sand on this car, there's still going to be, I'm going to say, a full day of just cleaning it, washing the car, cleaning it, prepping it so they can actually spray the color on. And with any luck, if there is such a thing as a God, I'll be able to do that within the next, let's say, 48 hours. I'm getting close. And there are other things I want to get to. You know, that's the other thing too. Once you start on something like this, you can't stop, right? Because there's a momentum, there's a flow, there's a mindset that you get into. And if you, like for instance, okay, like I'm dying, right, to take bottle rocket out. She's sitting here. She's got, everything's like ready to go. You know what I mean? But I don't dare take it out because I break an axle. I do whatever I do with the car, and it's going to take me off the purpose of this. So my whole, I've got, and then, oh, look at this. Come here. This is great. Look, I've got this isn't just a storage place. This is kind of like a free enterprise zone for a bunch of let's just call us where we're all like mechanical anarchists, right? So I've got this guy over here. This is my directly across neighbor, and look at what he's building over here, right? Is he around? Psycho, are you here? No. Yeah, this is what I'm up against, right? I have to somehow or other one-up this guy, but I can't even think about one-upping him until I'm done with that car and it's ready to go. But yeah, this is a pretty neat place. Oh, and then we got this thing, but I'm not going to talk about this because this is for next year, and this is for after we get our slant done. See, I can't even think about the slant until I've got this done out of the way, until I got a couple of good laps on that thing, and then I can work on a slant, and then I can do stuff like this. I don't want to get too sidetracked. I'm already way sidetracked. So, I'm giving you a basic idea of what you're up against if you're going to try something like this at home. And I'm not the voice of experience, but I'm the voice of a few paint jobs. I've been down this road before. So this was my first paint job. I did this one about a dozen years ago. And it was my first, and actually it's my best. It didn't start out that way though. The prep time on this car, I worked on this car between 6 and 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4 solid months. And we did this in the backyard. I shot it. We used the big compressor that we have here. Yeah, I spent a fortune on paint. I didn't know any better. But this car came out really good. It's straight. My there's no waves. There's no blotchiness or anything like that. But what happened was I didn't know any better, and I shot this thing. We started shooting this thing first thing in the morning, and it took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. We did this outside in the backyard. So by the time I was actually like into laying paint on the car, the sun had come up and the temperature had gone from like 70 degrees to like 90 degrees. And the paint was literally cooking as it hit the car. So it laid down okay on the sides, but the top, and this is still, oh God, I still have to wet sand this. It's got the same, like, it's got the texture of like what you would think like Godzilla's skin feels like, right? Now, I wet sanded the rest of the car, and while it's not the way it's supposed to be, luckily it kind of looks like the patina of an original paint car. Like if you were to see this thing out, you know, listen, I'm driving around, or you see it in a parking lot or something, you would look at this thing and at a glance and say, wow, that's a Survivor original paint car in amazing condition. It's not. It's a fresh paint job that I wet sanded to nearly oblivion to get all of this texture off. I did the hood, I did the sides, and I just ran a mojo when it came to the roof and the trunk lid, and I'll probably do that again soon. You know, but I'm not going to repaint it. I'm going to leave it just the way it is. The car makes a cool appearance. And this was the second paint job I did. This one's about 10 years old. I mean, it didn't look bad the first couple of years. Now I haven't washed it. I don't think this car's really had a good bath the whole time it's been sitting here. So it's got sap from the trees and everything, and the paint is dead. This needs to be redone. But it didn't do too bad of a job. This one didn't take very much wet sanding to bring around a couple of areas. But again, like the amount of time and the amount of effort that went into this, I'm going to say probably 2 months of constant work. You know, just like every day, hitting it a couple hours a day, working out a little, you know, welding in patches and massaging metal and so on and so forth. But it didn't come out bad. This encouraged me to do the third paint job, which was on the Swinger that we're working on now. So let me show you some of the things that you're going to want to do or think of and look for while if you contemplate doing this yourself. And then at the end of this, I'm going to tell you what my conclusion is and what I'm going to do from now on. Okay, so there's no such thing as a perfectly straight line on any car. They've all got a little bit of an arc to them. They've all got a little bit of a curve. They've all got, you know, but they're essentially straight. And to maintain that straight, you need a variety. This is the variety that I use. You need a variety of rubbing blocks. You need something like, I use this yardstick. Hang on, let me show that thing. I'll wrap sandpaper around this yardstick here, and I'll use this to do my long straight areas. But again, see, you can't just do this because this is an arc. So you have to work it in an arc, like, you know, you've got, let's say, smaller areas like this, where it's flat till you get to the very end over here. So if you're going to block like this, you can't use something that's going to come here, because then you're going to be digging in on an edge. You're literally going to be doing this. So you need different lengths of block to work on for your different sections of the car. The go-to for me are these paint stirrers. They just happen to work really well, you know, on a car like this. They sell rubbing blocks, specific rubbing blocks to use for this, and I'm not saying don't buy one, but I have one in the back over here on the Barracuda I was helping with, and I tell you the truth, working with that or working with the sticks, I like the sticks, you know, mostly because I can just quickly change to whichever one I want, as opposed to getting comfortable with one board and trying to make that work all the way across. So at any rate, and plus you can tailor those to what you need, you know what I mean? You got a small tiny area that you need to, you know, there you go, there's your small tiny area. So that's that. Sanding. One of the things with this car is that even the areas that started out perfect, right, where there were no waves, had a lot of paint on them. I overpainted it. There was a ton of orange peel. And before I can get rid of all, oh yeah, here's the experts. Don't touch the car with your bare hands. You'll get the oils on the, I know. I'm going to clean the car down with thinners before I get it, before I actually try to paint it. There was a ton of orange peel all over the car. Orange peel in and of itself isn't a bad thing. Some people try to achieve orange peel, but you can't paint over orange peel. So before I can lay another coat on this thing, I had to take all of the orange peel down. So we started with 220 grit, and then now I'm just going over the car with 320 to take down the very last of it. And literally, it's like every square inch of this car has to be massaged, and you know, like, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Just the other thing we got to talk about is expectations. I don't expect a show quality job out of this car. I'm not looking for a show car. This is a daily driver, project daily driver, which means that it's going to be in the supermarket. It's going to be sitting out in the street. Birds are going to poop on it. Kids are going to roller skate into the side of it. It's going to see regular use like a regular car. And that doesn't mean that I want it to be half-assed, but I'm also not looking for perfection. If I go to try to perfection on a daily driver car, it's a life frustration. I'll never get to enjoy the car. So you have to know what your expectations are. You know, my expectation, and I'm sure most of you guys too, I don't think anybody is watching this video saying, yeah, I'm going to do a show quality paint job in my backyard because I watch Uncle Tony do. No, you're not going to do a show quality paint job in your backyard. You'll do a driver quality paint job in your backyard. Know what you're looking for. don't overshoot. When it comes to materials, good sandpaper is essential. Cheap sandpaper, it goes away real fast. The 3M stuff that I use lately, this is what I've been using on everything. It lasts for a long time. You get more mileage out of this, and it's regular Home Depot stuff. But you'll get a lot of mileage out of that stuff. You could spend a fortune on paint. We'll talk about that. First car I painted, I paid $680. I think it was $600 for the paint, the reducer, and the hardener. Right? It was a B5. So I go to the local body supply place, and again, see, this is something you experts know this, right? But us novices, when it comes to body and paint, we don't know these things. So I went over to the local body supply place, and they ordered a gallon of Hemi Orange. I had them price it out for me, and the paint and the reducer, the hardener, was $380. Right? Okay, you know, all right, it's not a fortune, but you know what? I got to be really careful because that's a chunk of money. So if I spray this on and it looks like shit, and I got to sand it off and start all over again, that's a nice hole in my pocket. I spent 2 minutes. I went online. I found this stuff, which is premix. In other words, the reducer is already in it. You can add reducer to it. So let's say you open this up and it sits for a couple of weeks. Some of the reducer will evaporate out of it. You can add reducer to bring it back to where it's supposed to be. But the reducer and the hardener was $150 shipped. How do you beat that? Okay, so now I got my gallon of paint and I got my hardener, $150. You can do these jobs relatively cheaply. I'm going to say between Bondo, sandpaper, primer, and the paint, I'm probably into this right now for around $500, give or take. Yeah, that's about realistic, about $500. That's not hard to take. It's all in labor. It's all the labor. You got to be able to put the time aside. See, I'm able to put the time aside because, you know what, YouTube is my job. This is how I make a living. So in the past, when I did stuff like this, I had to split the time, you know what I mean, which is a real killer. If I wasn't doing this full time, what a crazy world. I get to paint my own car, and this is how I make a living. If I had to split my time, it would take twice as long. So, you know, you're talking about probably a month worth of prep work to get this thing painted. What else did I want to talk about? The type of air gun, or the type of spray gun that you're going to use. This is important, and I just picked this up watching YouTube tutorials. So, depending on the type of compressor that you're going to use, is whether you want to use the traditional style, right, spray gun that has the canister down here. This is a siphon style, or gravity feed. So this is, I paid like $60 for this thing, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And it's the same one you could buy right now from Harbor Freight for like $12. It works. It doesn't do a bad job. And I've seen many examples of this spray gun being used with good success. But here's the difference, right? This compressor, if I was to shoot the car at home, this spray gun over here would work well with my large compressor. This one over here will work with a 25-gallon 2-horse compressor, like I've got here. So if you don't have a big compressor and all you got is just one of the little roll-around ones, actually around 25 gallons or so, what I found here is that this one will run pretty much continuously at 40 psi going in. It'll run, the motor, the compressor will keep up with this, so you won't overwhelm it. If you try that same trick with one like this, it will never happen. You'll get, the compressor will run for, well, it'll just keep dropping pressure until it starts getting sloppy. Where this one will stay consistent. So if you're going to attempt one of these jobs at home, like I'm doing over here, go with the cheap gravity-fed spray gun. And you know, like I said, use a small compressor. If you got a big one, then use This is definitely a better setup. It's definitely easier to handle, it's easier to work with, but again, it depends on what you're working with. What else did I want to talk about? Coffee. You need lots and lots of coffee to do this. I don't know, some people drink beer. I don't know how you could possibly do that work with a buzz. It's beyond me. Gallons of coffee. Count that into your budget for doing this stuff. What else did I want to talk about? So, I'm in the home stretch now. I just have to finish going over a few small areas on the car with the 320 and then start cleaning it and give it a good bath. So it's like Wednesday now. I'm going to do everything in my power to have this thing in paint by Friday, because this weekend I want to go burn rubber. I'm tired of this, but you know, I can't do anything until this color on this car and I can walk away from it. So we'll check back on, well, by the weekend we'll check back on this thing and we'll see the results, and you know, good, bad, or otherwise, it's what we're going to have. So like I said earlier in the video, I learned a lesson from this. And this may be right, it may be wrong. I'm not an expert. Experts are going to chime in. I know, let me hear it. But this is the last car I'm going to attempt to paint in one shot. As a mechanic, and primarily I like to work on engines, transmissions, rear ends, suspension. I'm a gearhead, I'm a mechanic. For me to tie up my world to do this entire car in one shot, it's not in the cards. I'm not doing this again. From this point forward, and I have a couple of cars that I've even got one that I've got the paint, I bought for it, it's sitting there at the house. From this point forward, whenever I do one of these jobs, I'm doing one panel at a time. I'll do a fender, do it to completion, paint it the whole 10 yards. When I'm done with that, I'll move on, I'll do the hood. And that's how I'm going to do these jobs from now on. If I had to give advice to somebody who has never done this before, and you're like me, and like I said, you're a mechanic, you know, you're not a body man, you're not doing commercial work, you're not, I would say seriously look at doing your car that way. In the long run, it will take you more time because there's that much more prep and re-prep and so on and so forth, and it'll probably take you more materials. The job is going to get stretched out over a much longer period of time, but it'd be much less disruptive. You're not putting the car out of service, you're not tying up a bay of your garage or your shop or whatever, and you can get on with life. So this is the last car that I'm going to attempt, at least in this situation, this is the last car I'm going to attempt to paint as a whole entity. From now on, it's going to be one panel at a time, and you know, if it don't match perfect, I'm not looking for perfection. These aren't show cars. I just want something that shines, something I can put some wax on. I'll see you tomorrow.